In the final days of Tupac Shakur's life, Death Row Records was a pressure cooker. The East Coast West Coast feud was at its peak. Loyalties were being tested, and one unexpected fracture changed everything: the sudden rift between Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg. This is the real story of their conflict, told through the words of the two men who lived it and the man who controlled the empire around them. It starts with a single radio interview. Snoop Dogg goes on the air and makes a simple but hazardous statement. I ain't got no problems with Biggie or Puff. Them my homeboys. At a time when Death Row and Bad Boy were locked in a public escalating feud, those words hit like a betrayal. According to Suge Knight, Tupac heard the interview and was furious. Suge claims Pac stormed into his hotel room, demanding to confront Snoop, ready to fight him over what he saw as disloyalty. But Snoop remembers it differently. To him, Pac wasn't angry, he was hurt. A week before, they were brothers. Suddenly, Tupac wasn't speaking to him at all. The tension reached its breaking point on a private jet headed back from Las Vegas, one of the last times Snoop and Tupac would ever be in the same space. Snoop says Suge Knight walked up to his security team and told them, "Y'all ain't getting on this plane." His bodyguards were blocked. Snoop had a choice: stay behind or get on that jet alone, surrounded by death row personnel who were suddenly acting like strangers. He got on. Snoop walks down the aisle and sees Tupac sitting there. He tries to speak to him to clear the air, but Pac doesn't say a word. He just waves him off. The entire plane goes silent. Snoop takes the last seat in the back, grabs a fork and a knife from the meal tray, hides them under a blanket, and mentally prepares himself for the possibility that he might have to fight for his life. He later said that it was the longest flight of his entire career. Snoop's version paints a picture of heartbreak, a friendship collapsing under the weight of a war he didn't want to fight. Suge Knight's version paints Snoop as a traitor, someone who broke rank when Death Row needed unity the most. Snoop says Pac was distancing himself emotionally. Suge says Pac wanted to physically confront him. Both men agree on one thing: the relationship between Snoop and Tupac shattered in the final days of Tupac's life. In the 2 weeks leading up to the Las Vegas shooting, Tupac was surrounded by the core of Death Row: Suge Knight, members of the Outlaws, Death Row security, producers and engineers working on the Machiavelli project. Snoop was still in the orbit, but the bond between him and Pac had cracked. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac attends the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand with Suge Knight. After the fight, Pac and members of the Death Row entourage get into a confrontation with Orlando Anderson in the lobby. Hours later, Tupac is shot while riding in the passenger seat of Suge Knight's BMW. He spends 6 days in the hospital, surrounded by family, outlaw members, and death row affiliates. Snoop never gets the chance to reconcile with them. On September 13th, Tupac Shakur dies at the age of 25. In the years that followed, Snoop Dogg has spoken openly about his regret that he and Pac never got to fix things. He said that the pain of that unfinished conversation still stays with him. Suge Knight, meanwhile, has continued to frame Snoop as someone who betrayed Pac, even making new accusations decades later. Two men, two stories, one friendship that ended entirely too soon. But the truth that cuts through all of it is this: Tupac and Snoop were brothers. Until the world around them forced them onto opposite sides of a war neither of them fully controlled. And in the final days of Tupac's life, that fracture became permanent. If you want more deep dives into hip hop history, death row politics, and the untold stories behind the legends, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Rest in peace to Tupac Shakur, a life that burned bright and ended far too soon.